she's her grandfather's place was and uncle's place and father's place are all up there in Mill Road, and she's part of her heritage comes from being a part of the Brothers family. That's where 7 brothers came from England, and their last name was Brothers.
Uh-huh.
And she's part of the Uriah Brothers family. And down at the bottom of Oakdale Hill, which is called the S-Curves today,
Uh-huh.
that house there was her great-grandmother's house.
Oh. Wow.
So,
Nice.
and the house that's across from the cemetery,
Uh-huh.
that one there used to be white, and that one was her grandfather's house at one time. They lived there, the family.
Mm-hmm.
And so, it's just, Highland is wonderful. And of course, you probably know I attend Highland Lutheran Church.
Uh-huh. That's one of the oldest churches.
Well, it's the oldest continuously used Lutheran church in the Pacific Northwest.
Ah.
Because we do use it.
Uh-huh.
And been there a long, long time. The church itself, over 130 years old, even older than that. And about the church, that was kind of funny because as the story goes, it was attended by Norwegians and Germans.
Okay.
And the Norwegians would sit on one side, and the Germans would sit on the other side. And one Sunday, they'd come down to pick up the preacher down here at the boat landing and take him up to the church. And one Sunday would be in German, and the next Sunday would be in Norwegian.
Oh, I'll be darned. Huh.
Oh, yeah. So,
That's fun.
yeah. Candy's dad, not dad, but Candy's grandpa, Pete Moe, and one of the brothers, and I think it must have been Uriah, but there's a picture of them down in the museum of them. That's one of the boats that they built.
Right.
Yeah, and there's another one that they built, and I can't remember the name of it, but there were 2. And so she has a long history here. She is just a wonderful woman, and she takes her time and thinks things through, and is very knowledgeable, very knowledgeable. So I can't keep up with her sometimes. I mean, people ask her something, and she's got the answer.
Well, speaking of the museum, how did you 2 get involved with that?
I think Candy used to volunteer down there in the museum. I don't really know how the beginnings came. I don't know. All I know is all of a sudden, Margaret Hepla was the big one. Because we were good friends with Margaret, and Candy and Margaret really hit it off.
So was the museum already in the building that we're in now, or was that when they would set up at the Grange or different?
It was before.
Okay.
And she got involved. Margaret said, "You belong on the museum board." That was that, And Margaret called on Candy about the Summit Grove up there, and she knew the family from the years when she lived out here, and knew where the dance floor was. Well, the dance floor was where the pond used to be.
Oh.
And of course, Margaret's last name is Koff, Margaret Hepla Koff. And anyway, Margaret was out there looking the building over at. That's after she bought it, and the boys were out there renovating it, she wanted to know, Candy, do you know where the pond was? Yep. Show me. Okay. That's where the pond used to be. Because there was this little bridge there, they had goldfish in it there. Oh yeah. And she's like, that was where you went Sundays for dinner.
Uh-huh.
And they had cabins there. And Highway 99 is officially the connecting route to Seattle. You didn't turn to the right down here. You turned and went up what we call Pacific Highway.
Uh-huh.
It's actually Highway 99.
Uh-huh.
So, you know, how they come up with 10th Street, all these other, I don't know how they do it, but they do. So, yeah. But we've enjoyed our stay out here, really. And so more or less, Candy got involved in that. And of course, when the Clark County decided that they were going to rename all the streets out here, all the roadways, and brought this group up from California, Candy got together with Laura Larwick, and I hate this. Oh, anyway, he has a landing field up there at the crossroads at View, where the stop sign is at View.
Uh-huh.
And right across is all a great big Christmas tree farm now.
Uh-huh.
Jim. Martha was her name. And Jim, and his name will come to me later. Anyway, the three girls got together with a petition drive. And because they didn't want to lose the family names out here. And so they went all the way out as far as Shelatchie Prairie, Nick's Bar Grill, all over the place, getting petitions signed. At the Grange, the Wheel Club, they had a meeting at the Wheel Club, and the three-piece suit people came out, and I forget who the fire marshal was out here at that time, but he just looked up at the ceiling and gave a prayer because they were over capacity. And he came over to Candy and said, we got to get some of these people out of here. You're over capacity. And Candy says, go talk to her. Yeah. Go talk to Margaret. Well, he didn't. Anyway. So anyway, yeah, that was some meeting, and the people were really upset. They were mad about that, and so she and the the other two girls, had this petition drive, presented the petition, didn't do any good, but they did get an agreement with the county people that they would put the signs up, the new signs up, and leave the old ones up for 6 weeks or 6 months, so people became used to it, to the new names. And then they would come down and take the old signs down. Well, they were out there putting up the new signs, and they didn't hold to their word. They took the old signs down, and a lot of people got upset. So one Monday morning, Candy gets a phone call from the county, whoever was running it, and said, Candy, we got a whole bunch of signposts out there that have either been damaged or they've been cut down. Do you know anything about that? She said, nope, but I wouldn't doubt it.
Yeah.
You really hit a nerve.
Wow.
See, they changed the name on Candy's grandfather's road to 54th.
Oh, right.
And that's really riled her.
Okay.
And anyway, they were successful in getting about 11 of the old family names back. Where they put Sorensen Road is not where Sorensen Road should be.
Ah.
Sorensen Road should be right at the corner of 399th on my corner, and to the left, down, east, west. That's where Sorensen Road should be, but they named it 399th.
Yeah, the way the names go out there is so confusing because you'll have, one numbered road going one way and another numbered road going the other way, and then they kind of twist and turn together, and it's real confusing. I like names, family names, or that's too bad that was changed.
She got Mo Road back. Yeah. Matter of fact, she got 2 more Mo's in the same location. And I don't know whether it was a court or place or what. A circle, I don't know, but there's 3 Mo's in that area. And Sadie from the bakery lives on Mo Road. And she did before she moved. She's next door neighbor now.
Oh, is that right? Okay.
Well, her mother lives behind us, and across the easement road is where Sadie bought the people that were moving out, and she bought that piece.
Okay.
There's 4 parcels, 4 or 5 acre parcels. So anyway, I'm just going.
Well, that's good. That's good. That's what I like.
Oh, I like all the history out here. I hate to see the influx of people out here. In one respect, it's good, but as I understand it, it was a nice little bedroom community. We didn't have all the people out here. And anyway, as the people continued to come in, housing was built. They grew, and then all of a sudden they decided, do you want to continue to be a town, or do you want to become a city? And as I understand it, a town can't be larger than 2 square miles.
Oh.
A city, you can annex and annex and annex. And the voters, God bless their souls, decided to make it a city.
Yeah.
So there went the town marshal, because we no longer were a town where you had a marshal.
Oh, right.
Now we have a police department. So, and where the police department is currently used to be the fire station, the center fire station. And that tower that they have there, that's what they use to hang their hoses from, to dry them out, to drain them and dry them out. That's what the tower is for.
Yeah.
But yeah, Ed Siebler, for a long time, he was mayor here at one time, and Ed was the fire chief of the La Center station. And Ed became mayor after that, and got talking with Ed, and I said, what are you going to do with all this money now that the card rooms are moving in? Oh, we got all this and that, and we got to spend it, we got this and this and that and whatever. And I said, yeah, and what's going to happen, Ed, when something happens with the card rooms and they move out and you don't get that revenue? Who's going to pay for all the employees that you have? You better start saving. And that's when he started saving money. Wow. They were spending it as fast as they got it.
Yeah.
So, yeah,
well, we're going to change. I mean, we've got a lot of people coming in, and I just always think of, you take how many homes are being built and you multiply it times at least 2 cars per home, and sometimes 3 or more. And there's going to be a lot of traffic that we have to deal with.
Yep. It's going to be a real fun place trying to get through when the school's in session.
Yes.
Because they have Highland Road.
Uh-huh.
They got that one blocked.
Right.
You come down Bartlett Road, which is, 24th.
Uh-huh.
Come down that one, and they're building the new one out in the field out there.
Yeah.
You're gonna have traffic is gonna be in there.
Yeah.
I guess the only way I can go to Woodland is to go down Dobler Hill and down the back of the bottoms to Woodland. If I want to go to Battleground, then I'll just turn to the left and
Right. Yeah.
go through View.
Yeah. Yeah. It's gonna be interesting to see how this all plays out.
Oh, I'm not against growth, but it's got to be reasonable. And this is going crazy. Dwight Larson's place was for sale. I mean, until Dwight passed, and then until Georgia, his wife, passed. Mike Carpenter and his wife were staying there and helping take care of Georgia. And when Georgia passed, then the house and property was sold.
Uh-huh.
And as you go out Highway 99 on the riverside,
Uh-huh.
that's all construction.
Oh, right.
It's all Larson's land.
Yeah.
And you go and just look up the hill, and there's so many patches up the hill that are being built on and cleared, and you come out of the center, past the Wheel Club, and that big area there, and
Up across from the post office, that area?
oh yeah.
Yeah.
The guy who owns all that land was the mailman in the center.
Oh, is
He's
that
retired, but he lives back Prouty.
right?
Lives back in the back.
Uh-huh.
Wilson lives back there. Wilson's an old family too. Yeah. From England too.
Oh, I'll be darned. Well, I wanted to ask you about, I know you're involved with the cemetery, and I'm not sure what your official title is. Are you a commissioner?
Commissioner.
And how?
And, well, it's commissioner position 1, 2, or 3.
Okay.
That's how it is legally
Uh-huh.
on the ballot. So that's how we run. But not only one of us has to run every, I guess, 2 years.
Okay.
No, every 6 years. Excuse me, because they're 6-year terms.
Oh, whoa. So how did you get involved with that, and what does that entail?
Well, Butch Soul, Alfred Soul, and not Eversole. I can't even think of her last name.
That's okay.
Anyway, her let's see. There was Tom, who was did a lot of the grass cutting. There was Alfred Soul was a commissioner. Tom wasn't a commissioner at that time. He was at one time a commissioner. And he also was up there mowing the grass, etc. That cemetery is 3 cemeteries in one.
Ah.
There were 3 parcels up there. 2 of the parcels were sold by the IOOF, which stands for International Order of Odd Fellows. And you'll see where there's a ring of 4. And that's the emblem for the Oddfellows.
Okay.
Well, you might see that on some of the graves. Otherwise, you see the Masonic. You know what that is? Square and compass. But Alfred was in his 90s, and where that single-story brick house with real tall, skinny flagpole, right behind the Tuesday taco place, in the back of it, you know.
Oh, right.
That brick, that used to be Alfred Soul's, where he lived.
Okay.
And where the Mexican restaurant is, that used to be Soul's Market.
Okay.
And you know about the bank. And I tell you a story about that. Mr. Peoples was his name. And
At the bank?
At the bank.
Okay.
He was the bank manager. And two of the Moe's children, that was Candy's grandfather's, great-grandfather's, or grandfather's kids. Two of the boys in the center found a paper bag. And they looked in the paper bag, and there was all this money in this paper bag. So they went home and told their dad. And he said, you take that paper bag down to the bank, and you give that, tell the banker what happened, and you give him that bag of money. It was $5,000.
Oh, whoa.
Which was a lot of money back then.
Yeah. And how old are these kids?
Oh, I don't think they were that old. You know, they were children. And so they did. And Mr. Peoples gave each one of them, thanked them, and gave each one of them a coin. Well, needless to say, Pete got really upset. And he went down to the bank and gave Mr. Peoples a piece of his mind and had the children give him back their coins.
Oh, wow.
That's an old story.
Wow.
Yeah. Pete, at one time, in his older age, lived at Moorhaven. Moorhaven was a rest home.
Oh, okay.
You know where Moorhaven is? That's the log house on one side, and across the street, the rest of it. Well, Pete got in trouble, and they kicked him out. They sent him home. Yeah. He got in a fight with the marshal. Up there, and because they were both vying for the same girl.
I see.
Yeah.
Okay.
Oh, yeah. I really enjoyed being out here, though. I get a little upset because these people go up there with these new gadgets to find, they're surveying. And every time I see one of those guys up there with the surveying equipment, I said, "Are you on the center, on the corner?" And I see what they've done, where they've done. I said, that's not where the marker is. I said, you go 30 feet from this point right here out into the roadway, and you look through your contraption, and that's where the stake is, the corner section marker. I mean, these guys are going over here. One time they dug up a railroad spike. And I said, put that damn thing back in there and cover it up. Forget you even saw that. Because that may have been one of the old ways of marking property.
Right.
Somebody put an iron spike up there, Jeez. But I go out and I talk to the guys and I show them where the corner is. And then they go out and there it is. And so that's the corner marker.
All right. So, Murray, you were born in Panama, in the Panama Canal Zone? Was
Yeah.
that considered Balboa City,
No,
or?
I was born in Ancon. That's where Gorgas Hospital was, in Ancon.
Okay.
So my birth certificate is a United States citizen, born of American parents,
Uh-huh.
in the Canal Zone. And the Canal Zone was established by Congress under let's see, I think it was Title 18. Is and I have the Book of Laws. It's about that big of the different laws that pertain to traffic, all that stuff. And yeah, born 1934 there.
What brought your parents there? Where were they born?
Well, my dad was born in Brooklyn,
Ah,
and my mom was born in Lynn, Massachusetts.
well, how in the heck did they get down to Panama?
Well, my grandpa, Falk, came from Germany. He shipped out as a cabin boy so as to avoid the Kaiser's conscription into the service. And later on, he became a seafaring man. They hunted even whales. And later, he became a captain of his own in his own right of any ocean in the world. He had a captain's papers, and he was a tugboat skipper in New York Harbor. And I have some letters of commemoration of him, where he saved a couple women from a burning vessel in New York Harbor. And he got a commendation from letter of appreciation, etc., all that stuff, from the Secretary of the Navy at that time. Anyway, he came to the Canal Zone in 1916, 2 years after the official opening of the Panama Canal. And he was a pilot down there. Now, before leaving his work in New York, he and his wife Stella, and his name was Herman, were on a lighter, and that's where my dad was born.
Okay.
On a lighter in New York Harbor.
Huh.
Those are the light ships that lit the channel.
Oh, okay.
They called them lighters.
Okay.
Anyway, so that's how Grandpa Falk got down there. Grandpa Murray was born in Glasgow, and his wife Lillian, his name was David, and his wife's name was Lillian. She's a Chisholm, and she came from Arbroath, Scotland, and Grandpa was born in Glasgow.
Okay.
And he was an engineer. And they got married in the Knickerbocker Hotel in New York City. And as an engineer, he signed came down to the Canal Zone as a machinist, I guess. And then, of course, my mom, their daughter, her name was Marguerite Chisholm Murray. And let's do my dad first. Okay. My dad went to New York State Maritime Academy College, which is out in the Bronx area. It's across the bay from Kings Point.
Okay.
This is Maritime College, and he graduated in 2 years. and he had all, the highest they could give out in those days was excellent. Uh, and his report card, I had it, but it's destroyed. His but I've seen his report card, and it's laid out like a ship, and then comes to a point,
Uh-huh.
and everything on there was excellent except for one thing, and that was sail making. You didn't get an excellent there.
Mm.
But it wasn't a bad grade either.
Uh-huh. Uh-huh.
So he graduated from Fort Schuyler, it was what it was called,
Uh-huh.
and went to sea for a while and got his mate's license. Went to Canal Zone, became a tugboat skipper, and while Grandpa Falk was a pilot, went back to sea and got his master's papers, which he could master a ship anywhere in the world, not in the ocean. Same as Grandpa. Went back in I think it was 25 or 26, is when he became a Panama Canal pilot. And he and Grandpa, as I understand it, were the first father-son pilot team down there.
Oh.
In later years, Dad was the senior pilot for the Panama Canal, and he was taken off the ships, taken off being a pilot, and put in the office as the captain of the port.
Ah. Oh.
Because the captain of the port is always a Navy captain. And my dad was also a reserve naval officer. He was at that time lieutenant commander,
Uh-huh.
which is like a lieutenant colonel. Yeah. Anyway, because the previous Navy officer that was there, it was transferred, it was whatever. And they didn't have anybody at that time. Things were in the uproar or whatever.
Uh-huh.
And so Dad sat in the office and he hated it. He didn't like it. He wanted to be on board ships.
Mm-hmm.
And the guy, Henry Donovan, was the head of the civil affairs, director of the civil affairs department, which was, that was a big office,
Uh-huh.
right underneath the governor. And Henry wanted Dad in there, and Dad was just, oh, no, I don't want it. Get me out of here. And my dad, being a naval reserve officer, was also into naval intelligence.
Oh.
And he gathered a lot of, he's listened on board ship. So he picked up a lot of information by being going on board as the pilot and talking with the captain and some of the crew and stuff like that, and seeing things. So anyway, they didn't really want him in the office. So he finally suggested that a fellow pilot who was in poor health, get him in the office, let him be the captain of the port, and let me go back. So it was through my dad that this individual, Elmer Abbott, got into the office. On Grandpa's side, hi Rick, on Grandpa's side, Grandpa Murray, as a machinist, Mom worked across the border in a bank in Panama. And that's where she and my dad met.
Okay.
And I think that was about I don't remember when mom came down there. But they got married, and Mom had my brother Henry Jr., his namesake. My dad's name was Henry Edwin So this was Henry Edwin Jr.
Okay.
And as things would have it, the oldest always got. Everybody else got hand-me-downs
Mm-hmm.
or little or no attention. So anyway, I was born 3 years and 9 months after my brother. And I was supposed to be a girl, not a boy.
Uh-huh.
So anyway, I became my mom's little boy or little girl.
Uh-huh.
You know what I'm saying?
Right, right.
So yeah, my dad would go out golfing. Everything was Henry. And me, I'd go out. I couldn't carry anybody. I couldn't go golfing with my dad. I couldn't do anything with my dad. Everything was my brother.
Uh-huh.
And of course, I did with my mom and what have you. And oh well, such is life.
Yeah.
Yeah, I love both of them very much.
So, you grew up, you go through school there, and how did you?
I went to Balboa High School. Well, I went all the way through elementary up to ninth grade down there. 10th grade, my dad shipped me off to a military school in Lewisburg, West Virginia. It was called Greenbrier Military School for Boys.
Mm-hmm.
And my brother was there for 3 years.
Ah.
So when I got there for his graduation, I got all his old uniforms given to me.
Uh-huh.
And I wound up with one new shirt and pants. That was it. And shoes. That was it. And everything my brother's was too short for me.
Oh.
Yeah, they were knee high on my ankles.
Oh.
But I did what I could with them. Yeah, and there, oh yeah. Oh yeah. We would well anyway, yeah, we would save up and buy a new car every 8 years,
Oh.
something like that. But we didn't go to the States all the time. We accumulated our vacation time and our sick time. All counted towards you could use it for vacation.
Mm-hmm.
We could accumulate, it took 2.5 years to accumulate the max allowable, which was 719 hours.
Oh.
And so if you have 719 hours and you're still accumulating sick leave and vacation leave, you take a vacation.
Mm-hmm.
And not necessarily go to States, but my dad had a 1940 Buick, and he wound up in 1948, he sold that and got a 1949, and that's when they came out with the Dynaflow,
Okay.
the first ones. Oh yeah. Anyway, after a year at Greenbrier Military School, my dad said, okay, come on home. So I went home, was a member of the ROTC in school, and graduated from Balboa High School. I was not that good a student. And anyway, went to Bradley University in Peoria, Illinois for 2 years. Returned to the Canal Zone at my father's direction.
Mm-hmm.
And I all of a sudden wound up getting drafted into the Army. And our next door neighbor happened to be on the selection board. And usually there's 5 slots from the Canal Zone and all the time, those slots are filled by Panamanians because that's their way of getting American citizenship.
Ah.
Didn't happen this time. And I strongly suspected that my dad entered my name to be
Oh.
drafted.
Huh.
Anyway, I went in the Army, went through paratrooper school, joined one of the organizations, and went to Japan. Came back from Japan to Fort Bragg. Discharged from the, well, I got, I was in different organizations, and my last organization was, I was stationed in Panama with two little kids, two small children, because my wife had passed, and as a result of childbirth.
Mm.
So, so I had a baby and a one and a half year old, and we moved. The military gave me a transfer, which was difficult because they only have so many slots in these different organizations, and I got in one down there, and all of a sudden I got notified that I was going to be shipped to Germany, and I said, not without my kids. And they said, you can't take your kids with you. And I said, oh, then I am going to ask for a hardship discharge. And I got a friend down there who had an insurance agency, and he vouched for me that he would give me a job when I got out. And the secretary in the general's office, who happened to be married to a Panama Canal pilot, who was we were good friends with him. She helped the papers along and got me discharged.
Oh, okay.
So then I joined the police force through the help of Henry Donovan, because I was skinnier than a rail. And I never weighed more soaking wet, 160 pounds. So I was told that before I could get on the police force, I had to meet the requirements. Well, weight was the only requirement I didn't meet. So when it came time to have the physical exam, I loaded my socks with lead weights, and I wore a money belt around my belly filled with lead.
Oh
and
my gosh.
I did weigh in over 160 pounds, and then we were going to go for a strip exam, and I excused myself. I had to go back to the car to get some paperwork, at which time I got rid of all the weights.
Murray.
And that's how I got on the police force.
Oh my gosh. You cheater. That's funny.
And I was on the police force and all the riots down there and all that other garbage.
Wow.
When one of my friends from the previous organization in the Canal Zone snapped that picture of me, I was like looking at, they called me, they were up on the hill. They called me and I looked up there like that. This is the way I'm looking. In my uniform.
I'll be darned. So how long were you in the police force?
Oh, over about 4 years. My main job was traffic. I worked out, I worked all around. I worked the beats, walking beats, and, put traffic patrol beats, and we also manned the prison, the penitentiary we had down there. We had colored guards They were the guards, and we were in our uniforms. But they worked with the prisoners and what have you, and we were more or less the overseer. And got hairy out there at the prison sometimes.
Yeah.
But that's the nice thing. We had trustees, prison trustees. We had a guy out in there for murder, a white guy in there for murder, and he's got a tool making, a leather making shop with all the tools you need to make leather, wallets and all that stuff, which he sells. It's real cheap. Knives and everything, and he's in for murder.
Wow.
His last name was Kemp, but we always call them by their numbers. You know? And then we had 5 GIs in there who were in there for rape and then we had a homosexual in one of the Ben's cells. Kept him separated. Yeah, and we had this great big kitchen and great big dining room. The tables like this, you know, long tables. And you go through the line and you go sit and you clean your plate. Wow. Anyway, one time this guy, his name was Ferniel, decided that he was on one of the work crews up in the, we were teaching him vocational things, and this was up in the woodworking shop. And Ferniel took his hand like this, held his arm like that, and ran right into his arm, right into a bandsaw. Deliberately.
Oh, whoa.
Deliberately did it. So anyway, that took care of him for a while.
Ouch. Wow.
Later on, for some reason or other, he must have gone bonkers, but they got him in the mess hall, and a guy sitting behind him wound up whacking him. Came in there with a long pole inside of his pants, and we didn't catch it. And he got behind Ferniel, and he just whacked him in the head like something crazy.
Oh my gosh.
Yeah, you know, in fights and that.
Right.
Anyway, Ferniel wound up trying to escape. And he was headed for the canal, because we were built right close to the canal, where the ships go up and down. And he was headed to the guard, and the guard said, "Stop." He said it 3 times, and then he let go with the shotgun and just blew him apart.
Wow.
So that was the end of Ferniel.
Wow.
Yeah.
Lots of stories from there, I'm sure.
Yeah. So, you know, I've been married a couple times. First time I had David. He was the 1.5-year-old at the time my oldest daughter was born. She was, both of them were cesarean. And they had some complications involved with the second birth. And the night she was supposed to come home, I went upstairs. I was cleaning, you know, taking stuff home. And I was going to go up there and get the rest of it and then be back the next morning to pick her up and bring her home. And I just got off the elevator. They met me at the elevator. She just died.
Wow.
Emboli broke loose and hit the heart just after she fed my daughter.
Oh my God.
They picked the baby up, took her to the nursery, went back to pick up the other baby it was two-man
In a
room,
ward.
and went back to pick up the gal's baby, and that's how fast she died.
Oh, what a shame.
So anyway, so I had the kids, and I got,
Wow.
so then I met my second wife. In school, I was a police officer at that time, young police officer, and so she became like the surrogate mother. We got married, and everything was going along okay, and then all of a sudden we went to the States on vacation, bought a new car, that's a new van,
Uh-huh.
and toured the United States. I mean, we had a lot of vacation, and we drove all over this, and went back, and while visiting my folks, my dad had retired by that time, and they were in St. Petersburg, Florida, and we went there, and that's when I was informed that she had resigned her job and would not be returning with the children to the Canal Zone, and your choice.
Oh.
Go back and stay, or go back and come pick me up.
Wow. Oh.
So I didn't have any choice. I went back, I resigned, gave them 30 days notice, closed up the house, had everything I wanted, household and that, packed up. Our maid begged me to take her with us.
Oh.
She wanted so badly to come to the United States, and I just can't do it. Because we could have sponsored her, but we would be responsible for her. And you have to pay them. And you have to give them Social Security.
Oh, right.
And everything else. And we couldn't afford that.
Sure.
We just didn't have that kind of money.
Yeah.
So, no jobs, came to the States, and eventually wound up coming to Oregon, and 7 years after we got married, we divorced, and of course we had another child, a third child, with the second marriage. And so anyway, so I had 3 kids. I was working after work and trying to take care of 2 kids, because when we divorced, she took the youngest.
Right.
Because but she couldn't touch the 2. Because they were mine.
Right.
So anyway, and then she turned around and moved away, which deprived me of my child's growing up years. Well, we're still friends.
Well, that's good. That's good.
No hard feelings. No. Yeah, it was interesting. I've been involved in a lot of unpleasant things down there in the Canal Zone. So, but I still refer to it as, unfortunately, as home. Because I lived there 30 years.
Yeah, that's a long time.
But this is my home now, so.
Yeah.
This is my home.
Yeah.
Candy and I, we moved out here in 82. And in 82, this was still a small community.
Right, right. Yeah, there's been so many changes, and I have different projects that I'm working on through the museum where I'm hunting for more and more information on the good old days and the past mayors and all that, and some of the articles I run across are just incredible. And of course, back in the old days, there was no filter on what you put in a newspaper.
Did Judy take me up on the police, on the police force?
I
I had mentioned it a couple meetings back
okay.
that I had gone to the police department and I had seen their scrapbook. One of the people have a scrapbook. It's a big, big scrapbook
Oh,
of newspaper articles. And I thought that would be worthy,
oh.
but
I
they
think
stopped
I
that
was.
in 19, I think 19, or 2010, excuse me. They haven't done anything with it since 2010. And Judy said that she had been over there and didn't know anything about the book. But I don't know, maybe it must have been before I went over.
Huh, I will
But
definitely follow up on
there
that.
is a album over there, and they researched, I mean, they have it.
Uh-huh.
Because I've seen it. I've even thumbed through it.
Uh-huh. Well, I'll
There's about
definitely go by.
different articles in the police department.
Uh-huh.
And I don't know where it started, or I don't know how far back it goes, but I think it goes up to 2010.
Uh-huh.
And then it
Okay.
stopped. And I don't know why it
Okay.
stopped.
Yeah, I know at one point La Center had two newspapers way back when, early 1900s. I think before we were even incorporated, we had one. And it was basically a one sheet of, you know, just bullet points, so and so visited so and so,
Yeah, right.
somebody else sold their cow, or or had a house fire or something,
Yeah.
just real basics. But yeah,
Well, Glenn, uh, Glenn, oh, Glenn and Emily. Oh, what were their last names? Glenn and Emily, I'll think of their last name. Anyway, right at the top of Oakdale Hill, that white house that sits up on a bank. Just as you get to make that curve up at the top. Johnson, Glenn and Emily Johnson.
Right. Okay.
And Glenn passed, and then Emily stayed there until she passed, and then we had a great big celebration of his life, or their life, because they were both cremated. And the children, what we did was we walked out into the woods of their property. Back, you can't see this from the road. You got to be up where they live to see all that timber back there behind them. That timber that's growing on either side of the road as you're coming up. You can tell where it's been planted. Huh?
Okay.
That's all Glenn Johnson's property.
Oh, okay.
So anyway, Glenn, we walked back into the tree line and whatever, and of course the daughters did. That's where they wanted to be spread. Each one just dipped in and flew to the wind, and it was windy. So that's where she put it. And I don't know if the sign's still there or not, but Glenn carved this saying, Glenn and Emily's last dump. Glenn was a neat guy. Yeah, he was a good guy. Yeah. I seem like I'm shortchanging somewhere here.
Well, that's okay.
Yeah. It was interesting working in the Canal Zone. It really was interesting. And it's, I have a lot of friends up here in the area. They have, every year they have a picnic. And I try to make it, but it's now being held up at Gig Harbor. And, but we're all, you know,
Are these Canal Zone people?
Yeah.
These are zonies then.
Yeah.
Okay.
what they call Zonians.
Uh-huh.
Yeah,
Ah,
yeah.
well, how fun.
We're from the zone.
Yeah. All right.
Yeah, and it's fun. We have a lot. In the military, yeah, it's, we did a lot of different things. Uh, we had the different military things that took place, and like Cuba and Libya. Yeah,
You were in at that time.
I was in the yeah.
Yeah.
I was
Okay.
in at that time.
Yeah.
Yeah, in the Canal Zone, the riots we had. January 9th, 1964. January 9th, 1964.
What was that about?
That was all about the flags. And it was at the high school.
Uh-huh.
And the governor's office was up on the hill, and from his office he could look straight down at the school. Well, the kids were told they're not going to be able to have that American flag on the pole. Not until later on.
Mm-hmm.
And the kids found out about what was going on. So anyway, they went to school on January 9th. They went to school. I think that was the day it happened. And no flag in the flagpole, so classes started, but principal gets a phone call from the governor's office. Take that damn flag down off that flagpole. Are you trying to start an international incident? Get it off there. Well, we never put one up. I don't care. Get it off of there. So they took the flag off. Went on. Classes changed. Classes started up again. He gets a phone call. I told you to get that flag off the flagpole. He said, I did. I have it right here on my desk. And I don't know what's going on, but you better make sure there's no flag up there again. So he goes out and cuts Howie. Can't put the flag up now.
Uh-huh.
Classes change. Classes resumed. He gets a fourth phone call. The kids were already prepared. They had a huge, long bamboo pole with the American flag on it, and they shoved it in the ground. They had already pre-dug the hole.
Oh my God.
And they shoved it in the ground because they were bound and determined they were going to have a flag over their school.
Mm-hmm.
So they took it down. Well, that incited the parents. They're supporting their kids. So they had a great big meeting over at the high school. I mean, it was more than a meeting. It was like mob rule.
Uh-huh.
I had just gotten off duty. Just got home, sat down, and I had a plate of spaghetti in front of me. I was about ready to take that first bite when the phone rang. Report and bring your pot with you. Well, the pot was the Army helmet that was all issued to us.
Oh, okay.
Because of various riots.
Uh-huh.
We got down there to the high school, and the Panamanian students, actually agitators, etc., were there. We offered to take them by bus back to the border.
Uh-huh.
Now on the border there's only one cop. His name is Hank Summerfield. Oh, Hank. and he had the border, which actually was more or less one street, 4th of July Avenue was the name of it. And he doesn't know what's going on, and he so some of them got on the buses and went. The others said, we're going to walk over. So they went and walked up to the admin building and on up, all the way on up, past Quarry Heights, which was military, past the governor's mansion, and down on the other side was Gorgas Hospital, and down and crossed 4th of July Avenue and melted into the background where the real agitators came out.
Oh.
And that's when it started. So we had all of a sudden, Hank doesn't know what's going on. He's there by himself.
Yeah.
So we get him protected, and we start out in a border key places. Well, the judge, Guthrie Crow, however you want to pronounce it, lives on our side of the border, and we had this great big long chain link fence all the way across our border. I mean, in this area. They went and ripped that chain link fence right off the poles and laid it down.
Wow.
That's human force.
Wow.
But they didn't get to the judge. We beat him back across the street. So at the end of 4th of July Avenue, we had a small police building, cinder block, where we could relieve ourselves if we needed to. And up here on the hill is Quarry Heights, the military. And there's sawgrass up there, and there's these family quarters on stilts built on the side of the hill. They took and mutilated that building. They ripped the toilet right off the floor, the basin right off the wall. They took out chain link fencing, which was part of the window. Ripped that out. They took one of the big aluminum light posts, and with sheer force, it got twisted right off at its base.
Oh my!
And so I wound up there at that location, and the damn fools set fire to that grass. And so, of course, the military's up there, so they got put out. So no families got hurt of that. But they were just, this is where the Bridge of the Americas went, you see.
Wow.
And so on October 12th of 1962 is when we opened up that $20 million bridge we bought and paid for, joining both sides. And they named it the Thatcher Ferry Bridge. And the Panamanians wanted it to be called the Bridge of the Americas. No, Thatcher Ferry Bridge. So anyway, I was there also with the police department. And we had a bunch of dignitaries with seating there for the ceremony and that. Well, the crowd was so large, and those idiots, they were going to give out these little small aluminum coins of commemoration. They only had 10,000 of them. They didn't have enough. They ran out. They broke through the police line. We got the dignitaries out of there and safe. And they broke through the police line and went across the bridge, mutilated a monument that was over there on that side, came back, and they tried to mutilate the one that we were guarding on our side, and they didn't get there. They didn't get it, but they tried. And then they went up again, melted into the, and then the riots started. So that was one of the riots in 92, and then 94 is when we had the big one. But those people down there, there's about 100 families that, what we call Robbie Blanco, white rich. They lived in it, they all intermarried. and they keep their money out of the country. So, the Arias family, very, very well known. And they don't care. It's crazy down there. We had a police, a leader of the Panamanian National Guard. That was their police force, the Guardia Nacional. And his name was, he went by Chichi Ramon, was his name. And they, one year there was elections, and they tried to get Chichi to, they voted him in. He says, I don't accept it. I'm staying where I'm at. So they had to take another vote. He got voted again. He says, I'm not accepting it. No, I'm not gonna do it. He said, why should I trade 5,000 Guardia Nacional for 400 secret police? He says, I have more power here.
Sure.
They voted him in the fourth time, and he accepted.
Huh.
Anyway, long story short, one Sunday he was out at the racetrack, and during intermission time, they all went down to this room for dignitaries, etc. And they killed him.
Oh my gosh.
They assassinated him.
Wow. Wow.
Oh yeah. Crazy, just crazy. And
How-
you know, when you see enough of that stuff, you get enough of the turmoil and what I mean. We had M1 rifles, which that was the rifle of the day for the Army. And we had an arsenal. One of our Panamanian students, his name was Herman Davila, fantastic violinist. But what they were able to do was they were able to pay a tuition and attend the American school. Well, that's what it was with Herman. Anyway, he had made up plans and everything, locations of where the rifles and everything was stored in the ROTC building. They got found. He got found out. They were going to break in and steal all the weapons. And he got picked up before, and nothing happened. And the gunny sergeant said, well, there's really nothing to worry about. What do you mean nothing to worry? There were no firing pins.
Oh.
They had taken all the firing pins out of all the rifles.
Oh.
Long time ago. None of us knew it.
Yeah.
But the firing pins were gone.
Wow. That would have been a shock.
Well, yeah. So, it's
How did you feel when Jimmy Carter gave the canal back?
They didn't give the canal back.
Wow.
That's a bad term. They gave the canal away.
Yeah.
There was an agreement between America and the Republic of Panama as a result of the interference of the Americans in the breakaway of the province of Panama from the country of Colombia. That's how Panama established its independence.
Okay.
There was a boatload of Marines in Colon or Cristobal Harbor. And that put the fear of God in the people down there, and but gave others, let's do it. So they broke away, was, of course, didn't put up much of a fight over it because they were afraid of the military, our American military. And so a treaty was signed by the big wheels down there. And I think it was an agreement that they would receive so much in gold every year. But the treaty was in perpetuity. Well, our next door neighbor in one of the places that we lived down there was Paul and Betty Bentz. And Paul was the Attorney General for the Panama Canal, Canal Zone.
Okay.
And we found out from Paul what it meant. And the agreement basically boils down to every 99 years. The treaty was good for 99 years in perpetuity, which meant it was to be renewed every 99 years, but forever. There was no end to it. And they paid the Panamanian government in gold, probably up to whenever the gold was taken off the market as negotiable. And then they paid them equivalent. And of course they got, they wanted their independence. We cut their country in half, 10 miles on either side of the canal. 5 miles on either side of the canal, a total of 10. And the people kept, that's why they kept having changes in the presidents and assassinations and all kinds of stuff down there.
Boy.
So, yeah, and the Americans were just terrible. I mean, we had a junket of congressmen come down there one time. And they said, "What is this? You people are furnished your furniture? You don't have to have your own furniture?" No, we have a quartermaster, and we get to go in there and pick out what furniture we want. Well, we'll see about that. Everybody got a raise because they were going to make them pay for it. Read it. So later on, another junket came down, and you mean to tell me you don't pay any rent or hospitalization? Well, we'll see about that. And everybody got a raise. The final straw was when they came down there the third time and found that we didn't pay any income tax. Everybody got a raise, but they all had to report their income tax to their home state. And this goes with the military where I had to get out of the Canal Zone and into the Republic of Panama, or I either get that or ship back to the States with the children. Because they determined that my dad's home of records was New York City. So every time, whenever I go on vacation and that, it was computed to New York City. So I had to leave. I had to go to a foreign country and serve. And I was scheduled to go to Germany and serve. And I said, no, I want a hardship discharge. I want to stay with my kids. And so that's how that happened.
Wow.
Yeah, so I had to start filing the income tax down there, but it was socialism in a lot of respects. Because our housing was furnished, we didn't pay rent. Our medical was furnished. Everything was furnished. We didn't pay
Mhm.
for any of the necessities. It was, like Hawaii, I would
Yeah.
say. I mean, it was nice. And so anyway, the United States had had made an agreement with the Panamanians that the flagpoles, anywhere an American flag was flown, would also be the Panamanian flag. So the first place that we had that happen was down at Shaler Triangle. That's where they got the picture of me with the two workmen and the flagpoles laying on the ground.
Uh-huh.
That was Shaler Triangle. And the police force were all lined up here. Panamanian National Guard police was on this side, and two flagpoles were in the center, one here and one there. And this had a, like boxing ring, in other words, it was elevated, for the dignitaries. And the guy running the radio station, broadcasting that with Armed Forces Radio, AFRS station, was sitting on the top stoop back here of the steps up to the platform. And this whole crowd's out here like this. Well, we have some Panamanian detectives, and they were in the crowd. And the National Guard also, had their people in the crowd, some of them. So the ceremony gets to the point of raising the flag. And we give a hand salute as they're raising the Panamanian flag. And all of a sudden, out of the crowd, it just melts away. And this one guy is hollering, "Bomb!
Oh.
Bomb! Bomb!"
Oh.
And we had to stay at attention like this with our backs to the crowd.
Oh my
And
gosh.
the guy's name was Duchet, Duchet. They had just released him from the mental institution that morning.
Oh my.
And he got to the back steps and he knifed the radio station guy.
Oh.
Took the knife, and as he's leaving, the detectives are going for him. He takes and throws this back into the crowd, at which time they holler, "Bomba!"
Oh my.
Thinking it's a bomb.
Yeah.
Well, when it was the knife, and that, of course, we're like this, man. Oh, geez.
Oh my gosh.
So anyway.
Wow.
So that was one. Anyway, we got the flags up. Okay. After that. And we played the Panamanian national anthem. And then we had the American national anthem. The second time we got involved with raising of the flag was at the administration building. And they had to reset where the one flagpole was. They had to reset it over and put another one pole in. So it would be, even, symmetrical.
Okay.
At the administration building. Well, we knew through our intelligence in the police force that there was going to be trouble. So we had this cage built, big, long, wide cage, top, sides, front, with mesh, and it was light enough where we could grab it on the ends and go with it. There was also a slot in the middle. And we could pick that up and go with a fire hose attached. And that's a water cannon because we also had the fire truck right back there.
Right.
We were around the building, on the side of the building. All the cops were over there. And the fire truck was over there. And we were ready to go if there was any trouble whatsoever at that flagpole. We were there to get wet. Nothing happened.
Yeah, well, I guess that's good.
Oh yeah, oh yeah.
Oh my
So I wanted
gosh.
to take Candy back down to show her where I used to live.
Uh-huh.
And one of my dear friends down there, uh, anyway, he was a lawyer. He took over his his uncle's business, David Robles. Anyway, I hooked up with David and his wife, and he assigned one of his young attorneys to be our guide.
Uh-huh.
And so we went to different places, uh, spent the whole day together.
Nice.
Went to different places down there, what I wanted to see and what have you.
Uh-huh.
And God, we got up by the admin building. They had a Panamanian guards that's sitting there before you get into the parking lot, the park. Before you get in the building, there's another one there.
Uh-huh.
And he's sitting on my stool. And I said to him, I said, I used to sit there. But in the rotunda, and I hope it's still there, I don't know if it is, but I hope it's still there. You look up the rotunda,
Uh-huh.
there were 4 murals painted up there
Uh-huh.
of the construction days of the Panama Canal.
Nice.
Beautiful. If I I have the booklet somewhere.
Mm-hmm.
You see, my dad was well up in seniority, and we used to have parties every month at the house. I had big cocktail parties.
Uh-huh.
That's the way my brother and I were raised.
Yeah.
Silver spoons in our mouths, you might say.
Yeah.
But that was the German in my father's side, and my down there, Dad was the 3rd highest paid individual down there.
Wow.
The governor, lieutenant governor, and my dad.
Hmm.
It's just he was important.
Yeah.
And I didn't, I just everything for granted.
Sure.
Day
That's
in
what
and day
kids
out.
do. Yeah.
Everything's for granted.
Yeah.
So I got to ride on the return voyage of the USS Missouri after the signing of the peace treaty. My brother and I were the only 2 civilian, and we were kids,
Uh-huh.
to board the Missouri and transit the canal on the Missouri.
Oh, I'll be darned. Wow.
And I had the booklet of the USS Missouri, the signing of the Treaty of the Panama Canal, and I also have a coin with on one side it's a picture of the USS Missouri. On the back, it has the wording over this spot on such a date was the signing of the peace treaty. I think I gave that to Larry. I don't know, but I have so much memorabilia. We got as a result of protecting the dignitaries on the bridge on October 12th. The governor gave each one of the police officers present one of the medallions that they had made for the dignitaries.
Ah,
So I have that.
nice. Very
And
nice.
use it as a paperweight, No,
Yeah.
I put it away.
Yeah. Marie, my phone is going to be running out of memory here. So I need to go ahead and
Wrap
end
it up.
this. Yeah, we need to wrap it up. But I wanted to thank you so much for taking the time and talking about all of this, your prior life and your, life here in La Center.
Yeah. The center is a big part of my life.
Yes.
And I hate to see all of the the influx of people out here, but it was bound to happen. It's a nice area, and land was available, and so why not?
Yeah. Yeah, I know with every new person like myself, I've only been here 4 years. As we come in, we think, okay, now the gates can close. We don't want more people coming in.
That's right.
But
And keep them down
we
here,
just
lady.
love it. We just love
Keep
it.
them down here.
Yeah, yeah. Well, Murray, thanks again. I
Yeah.
appreciate you doing
You're
this
welcome.
for us.
There's so many different stories to tell. It's
Yeah.
just amazing. And both, well, I've had a wonderful life, and I hope to continue for at least another 10 years,
You
if not
betcha.
longer, should the good Lord
Yeah.
determine.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Well, that's good. And there can always be more recordings. Yeah.
Yeah. And I'll be with Candy during those years too.
Yeah.
So, yeah, and our little black cat business will continue to grow.
You guys are incredible with how much work you do.
You haven't you haven't seen our calendars.
Yeah, I have.
Oh,
I know.
oh yeah. Anyway, it's great to be alive, and to be that way, you have to keep moving.
That's right. That's right. You do. Well,
Yeah, we need to appreciate all that God's given us.
there you go.
It's around us 24 hours a day.
Oh.
I take my kids out into the field. My grandkids, pitch black out there. And I have them look up at the heavens, and they are awed at how many stars are out there.
Oh, and you can see tons out your way, away from the lights.
Oh yeah.
Yeah.
It's nice, and we're trying to teach them some of the new little games to play, like they don't know anything about snipe hunting. And other little games to play,
Yeah. Yeah.
But they're gonna get taught.
Yeah.
I'll have to do it with the great grandkids,
There
because
you
the grandkids don't know, but they're too old.
Yeah. Yeah. Yeah.
They'll wind up.
Okay, well, Murray, on that note, I'm going to sign off. And again, we appreciate you doing this.
Thank you.